little history of our partnership with WCEPS. So I was lucky enough to be a superintendent to walk into a district that was under a Department of Justice settlement agreement for not providing adequate ELL services. So we were looking for a vendor to really address the requirements in the DOJ settlement, and it was really transformational. We were fortunate enough to research and learn about WCEPS, and we saw a natural kind of fit. In the DOJ settlement, there was a number of areas that that the district needed to improve. And it wasn't just about ELL. What WCEPS saw from the beginning in our conversations was really about how do we move systems. So over the course of several years, quite honestly, we talked about where we were and where we needed to be. And it was about systems changed, especially around tier 1 instruction. And you don't think about a DOJ settlement agreement around ELL on how you're going to improve tier 1 instruction to have more access and opportunity for all students. So we looked at this really using the DOJ settlement from going from compliance to commitment and systems improvement. So we wanted to get to that point on really access and opportunity for all students, and then really to that tier 1 instruction that students had, again, opportunities to meet grade level standards. What was happening prior to the settlement, we had a group of students who had no access. And through our conversations with WCEPS, we really learned that we had to, again, take a broader look at our approach to our professional development. You can see even in describing it, it was a lot of work. What WCEPS did expertly was able to break down where we needed to go and design for implementation. They asked thoughtful questions on what was the root cause, what was some of the why behind it, and then really develop professional development plans moving forward. We also knew it couldn't be just a snapshot in time. So working with the experts at WCEPS, we developed a 3-year professional development plan. And then we really thought it was important to have that cohesion and clarity on where we were going. All through the way that whatever the strategies or professional development we were implementing, even in year 1, we were connecting it to where we were going to be 3 years later. So that cohesion was always paramount in how that connected to other initiatives. So when we were talking about ELL strategies, we were connecting it to a new ELA curriculum. We were connecting it to a math curriculum, so that the teachers did not see that this was an additional thing. It was already in support to what they were doing in the classroom. So again, we were really clear on that, and WCEPS was fantastic in helping us brainstorm and problem solve and seeing those solutions around systems and not an add-on. Yeah, I think through our conversations with WCEPS, we know that professional development through research has to be sustained over time. The one-day workshops do not work. And we had those conversations. Again, in a 3-year plan, what is going to be the technical knowledge, and then what's going to be the organizational support. So how do we build teachers' knowledge and skills? How are they going to implement those new knowledge and skills? And then that critical part is what's the organizational support to those teachers in order to apply that, and then measure the student data. We use a lot of research from Harvard around what are adaptive challenges and what are technical challenges. And so the learning new instructional strategies is really a technical challenge. What we want to get as the adaptive challenges. How do we change people's mindsets and beliefs on what students can and can't do? And that's what's sustainable. We'll always be learning new instructional strategies, but we also have to address our belief systems on our expectations for what students can and can't do. And I think that's the systems change we are a lower performing school district. So anytime that you're below a certain threshold, is it a student issue or is it a systems issue? And so we really talked about, we couldn't intervene on the number of students one at a time. We had to change our whole system and really raise the bar at tier one instruction. And that's where we really look to address. So it wasn't one or two teachers who needed to improve. It was our whole system needs to improve. And that was the collective efficacy kind of moving forward and really about our mindsets. And that's where WCEPS really helped us process on how to move those systems. And it was through great collaboration, great facilitation on Yvonne and her team to get us to that level. So most of the sustainability, I feel, comes through a collective vision. Right? And so that mindset of, do we have the same belief system? So how do we get on the same page of what do we want to accomplish? Because if we have the same vision, the same beliefs, the same collective efficacy in support of students, then we can actually have a continuous improvement environment. And what I mean by that is, we know things are going to come and go. We're going to use research, and we might use new tools, new instructions, new assessments. And that's always going to change year to year or every couple of years. But our core beliefs don't change. So we actually have to have almost a double loop cycle of what data are we collecting around either learning walks or assessments or interventions. And are those actually changing our core beliefs, right? Are we thinking differently, right? So making sure that, again, the data is showing student improvement, but we also have to have the conversations of educators being reflective in their practices. Do they have that belief system that all kids can be successful? We actually have a all admin meeting coming up on next week, and we're using our learning walk data to see where are some of those gaps, and through our exercises or the exercises there are reflective questions. So we are still using our WCEPS tools 3 years later. And I think from a leadership perspective, I'm reinforcing that this is not going away, right? So all too often, I think leaders like, it's a shiny, new object, and let's go chase that. So we are making sure that our coherence and clarity is our strong foundation, that everything comes back to our tier one instruction, everything comes back to our belief systems. And then can we make those connections on whatever else is coming through? How is AI impacting our tier one instruction, or how is using technology in different ways going back to what we need to accomplish? And I think that's part of the leadership moves, is always bringing it back to those one or two things that the whole district can value. And it's not a new initiative. And I think that's some of the leadership moves that leads to the sustainability, that we need to create cultures of continuous improvement. And that means there needs to be little changes along the way that are connected to our vision, our mission, and our core beliefs. The outcomes and changes that we've noticed in the district was going from a baseline of where our district had ELL students was almost separate and apart. And so there was really that connection that we, as a result of the district-wide professional development, is that we saw that all teachers and all adults were responsible for ELL students. We really changed the culture from going from ELL students are in those classrooms to ELL and best practices are in every classroom. And that was transformational for our district moving forward. Again, I think the question really working with WCEPS was, we would have those conversations about what professional development do we need? What leadership moves are we going to take to support the new instructional strategies or the new professional learning? And then what data are we going to collect? Again, looking at some learning walk data, we see higher student engagement. We see teachers using uh, the WCEPS learning strategies in the classroom. We see more alignment of instructional instruction tied to grade level expectations. Again, not just for ELL students, but for all students. The important thing that people should know when working with WCEPS, it's always co-development. It's about a partnership collaboration. WCEPS truly cares about what your problems are and what your solutions. So it is through ongoing conversations and really some detective work on what's your root cause and what are you trying to solve. So it is, I think people need to know that it is a partnership. It's a co-development of professional development. It is not a canned product. So if you are going to invest in this partnership, you know that you have a willing partner with expertise to find solutions for you. You should be comfortable in engaging in dialogues and being vulnerable so that you can actually find those solutions. And WCEPS is that partner, is that solution that can be working with school districts that will not sell you a canned product, but really co-develop the process with you and collect some research and development so that you know that you're successful. That will lead to sustainability and continuous improvement that along the ways that will enhance student outcomes.